Welcome to the Welsh Yogi Podcast.
Okay, everyone, welcome to the Welsh Yogi Podcast. It's me, Gopal. We got back to Ben, Charlie as well in the studio audience. And we also have back to Paul with us as well. Say Hare Krishna, Paul.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Paul.
Paul's a legend. Paul's from the valleys. He's a original Welsh yogi.
Nah.
Yeah, there's a sheep noise there. So now anyway, now we've got onto the invocation, which is the first Sanskrit mantra of Sri Ishopanishad. So those who are new to our Welsh Yogi podcast, this is where for the next 30, 40 minutes or so, we'll be going over this wisdom literature from India to try and uplift our hearts and our minds and get a different view on life, a different perspective, a more spiritual perspective. Is that right, Ben?
That's spot on. So this is episode 5. So the first 4 episodes, we've got this book called the Sri Ishopanishad, which is an amazing book. I was looking into the history of the Sri Ishopanishad, and they don't know where it originates from necessarily, right?
No, it's given in the list of Upanishads, and it's always given the prominent position. It's always first, and it's always held as the most important of all the Upanishads. Upanishads, the mystic sort of branch of knowledge that was in the Vedas. Yeah?
Isho, the word Isho means something like source, right? Or creator, or... Anyway, but yeah, so the first 3 episodes we read through the introduction, which was a really, really cool lecture that was given by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who's sort of started the Hare Krishna movement, the Krishna consciousness movement in the West.
Yeah,
and basically we established there's so much stuff different authorities, accepting different types of authorities. And
he's establishing. So we've done a short introduction where Prabhupada, who's generally accepted as the most authoritative translator and sort of conveyor of this spiritual knowledge in the world, and he was given I don't know what the word, epistemology of understanding spiritual science. So the way that you experience and attain this knowledge. So now we're in the invocation. I know that was a bit technical. Should we just start, do you think?
Yes. Yeah.
We should do an invocation, our own.
We should do the Om Namo Bhagavate invocation.
Yeah, that's the general sort of standard way if you want to approach spiritual literature. There's a mantra you chant beforehand, which we'll all do together now. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So first is a Sanskrit verse. So this is the original Sanskrit. Om Purnam Adar Purnam Idam Purnat. Sorry, Om Purnam Idar Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Udachyate. Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. Translation. The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete. And because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself. Because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. Purnam means complete in Sanskrit, and this Om is the complete whole. I'm just going to read the first part of the purport. The complete whole, or the supreme the complete whole, or the supreme absolute truth, is the complete personality of Godhead. Realization of impersonal Brahman, or Paramatma, the supersoul, is incomplete realization of the absolute complete. So what's being said here is there's different realizations of of spiritual reality, and it's in different levels. And it's saying that the complete realization is this realization of the supreme sentience, the supreme consciousness from which everything comes. And then the supreme personality of Godhead is Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. So realization of impersonal Brahman is realization of his Sat feature, or his aspect of eternity, and Paramatma realization is realization of his Sat and Chit features, his aspects of eternity and knowledge. But realization of the personality of Godhead is realization of all the transcendental features, Sat Chit Ananda, or bliss.
Yeah, like I guess there's quite a lot to unpack there for someone who's just like a first time sort of listener. Like there's a lot of technical terms and things that you could break down, you know?
Yeah.
But we've got like this, it's interesting how he says the personality of Godhead is Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. So this is something we hear quite a lot. So the Sat is
Eternity. Or existence.
Yeah.
So existence is Sat, so it's like a principle that we exist. You know, and then there's Chit, which means consciousness. So we're aware of our existence. And then Ananda, which is bliss or pleasure. So these are the fundamental spiritual principles of reality that ultimately stem from the source of everything. So these are the basics. So we exist. There is existence. There's awareness of that existence or consciousness. And then there's Ananda or pleasure, spiritual pleasure. So which can be distorted when we're in this material world. Yeah. So it's very interesting. So it's not just, so it's the base, like material, you're not just matter. Because that exists, but there's an awareness of matter. And then not only are you just aware, but there's also a pleasure, and we're looking for pleasure and love and things like that, you know?
Yeah, because it says the supreme personality of Godhead is constituted of those three things.
Yeah.
But actually the living entity is also like made of the same things.
Yes. I mean, it'll come up often. I think we might have to keep revisiting this personality of Godhead sort of language. So personality of God. So Godhead comes from the German word Gottheit, as we explained before.
Yeah, last week.
Which basically means the whole reality of everything. Everything, like everything is meant to be contained.
They're talking about the complete. So everything.
And if you're dealing with everything, you can't put aside consciousness. So therefore, included in everything is consciousness. So therefore, when you're talking about everything, you're talking about a personality as well of God, of the Godhead. You know what I mean? So it's like you can't say everything and then discount consciousness. It has to be included. So therefore, you've got the personality of Godhead, which has these three principles: existence, awareness, and Ananda, or pleasure and love.
Yeah. And so previously in this purport also, Prabhupada has said that realization of impersonal Brahman or Paramatma, the supersoul, is incomplete realization of that. So like there's different ways of understanding this this Godhead. There's different levels, there's different tiers, So you've got like the first stage is Brahman, which is kind of, it says here that like Brahman is realization of his Sat feature, so that eternal aspect of like, so like, you always hear of people like they have this realization that there's like an existence beyond this time that we understand, like because in these bodies we've got these like, we've got this body and we're in this universe and there's the time ticks, but there's like people understand that there's something beyond that material time. Like it's really quite a big topic, but like especially like
big topics. This is what the Shri-Upanishad is really introducing us to, like, and it shows how, and this was spoken thousands of years ago. We think like back then people were like cavemen and like hitting each other on the head with clubs and stuff. But you read this philosophy and this is profound. Which is why when they, with the Germans and eventually the British, when they went into India and they saw this Sanskrit language, this philosophy, their minds were blown. How has such a civilization existed for so long? That philosophically and culturally is so much more advanced than anything we've been privy to. Paul, what do you think so far? Is it all making sense?
Well, it's it's really deep and just trying to make sense. I'm just thinking that like when you're talking about like the impersonal Brahman, is it like sort of you're talking about the sun's rays as opposed to the sun itself?
Yeah,
Focusing
that's
on
a
the
good
sun. Is it? I read that somewhere.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah. So that's a good example. Like you have the sun and the sunshine. So if one wants to experience the sun, then you can experience it to some degree by the heat on your skin, you know, from the sunshine, for the molecules of the. So you can't really separate the sun from the sunshine. It's sort of one, but then there's a difference as well. So, but if one really wants to, I guess, experience the sun, then there's more than just the sunshine. There's the actual sun, you know, star sort of thing, and then you know, you can go onto that planet, and who knows, you know, maybe there's beings with different bodies, different constitution to us, you know, and there's all sorts of stuff going on there, and we could carry on. Shall we carry on?
Well, no. So we've discussed Brahman, so the impersonal Brahman, and then the second level is Paramatma.
Paramatma, yeah, the Atma in everyone's.
Yeah, so it's like this concept of this Godhead, this personality being exist. He's
There's a far out word, Godhead.
Godhead. Yeah, it's cooler than God in one way.
Because perhaps God, the word God isn't enough.
No.
But people are freaked out by the word God these days. You
Yeah,
know?
same. Like it's,
You know, in one sense, even having God in the word Godhead is enough to,
Yeah.
you know, in one you want to start with a verbal clean slate.
Yeah.
Which is why it's good to have like Sanskrit words and things, because our conception of God, particularly what's been sort of brandished about by, you know, say maybe Christianity and all sorts of other religions that we experience in the West, sort of given God a bad name and given us preconceptions of our ideas of God before we even approach the subject matter like this. You know, so it's. You know, I think
it's like a turn off, isn't it? Like you hear the word God and you're just like, look, I don't want to know about this. This is like it's religion, and all religion's just for controlling people, and that's always my conception. And you meet people on the street, you know, like they're just like, nah, don't talk to me. I'm not religious, you know. But there's something way cooler than all that in these books, you know. Like we're talking about the nature reality here, like all of this stuff. You don't have to. It's not like stuffy sort of Sunday school. No, but I like, Sunday school's alright as well. To all those Sunday school people out there.
Yeah, it's just, and it's, you know, if we can get rid of these misconceptions about a God character in the sky with a beard, you know, hurling like thunderbolts at people, and really deeply understand what's presented in this Sri Upanishad and the Bhagavad Gita, is this idea of the Satchit Ananda principle. So there's awareness, there's existence, but there is a deep need and desire to love and be loved. You know, to have loving relationships. You know, it's a very fundamental part of reality, and that is the real essence of understanding this supreme consciousness, or God, or Krishna. You know, that's something to really think about. Anyway, it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think as well, like Satchit Ananda. This is what we're made of deep down. You know, the soul.
Yeah.
And we're always trying to express that in somewhere. Like no one wants to die, right? Everyone. They're deep down. They know that they're like an eternal being that wants to exist forever. Because we're in this body, we're like forced to die, and everyone's struggling with that concept because it doesn't feel natural. You know, the same as like you said with the loving propensity. Everyone wants to love and be loved. You know, it's like all of these constituents are deep down in us. You know what I'm saying? Like, so we're trying to express them in one way.
Yeah, trying to express them and explore them. You know, don't just push them to one side and think, hey, you know, maybe I have all these things because it's just some fluke of nature. You know, and now I'm just, you know, in some senses burdened with these things. Therefore, I have depression, and you know, so it's just some fluke, and therefore I've just got to get through life as, you know, muddle through life as quickly as I can with, you know, but you know, with as minimum distress as possible, and try and maximize my, you know, sense, sort of my pleasures.
Yeah.
But we should really explore this consciousness, this existence, really explore our loving propensities, you know, deepen our relationships with each other, which would be automatically becomes deepened when we understand the whole. As I said, Prabhupada says later on in this purport that any feeling of incompleteness is due to incomplete knowledge of the complete whole. So if we feel incomplete, that's because we're not fully experiencing our own completeness, sort of thing.
Yeah, because that deep down aspect of ourselves is complete. You know, who we are deep down is already a complete. So like whenever we don't feel complete, it's because we're not connecting to that completeness about ourselves. You know, so like we're identifying with the non-eternal aspect of ourselves, with our body, with our temporary situation. That's one aspect of it. So like
you feel dissatisfied.
Yeah, we don't feel complete because we're like looking for that. We're looking for that tushti, as we talked about before, satisfaction, in the wrong place. Like, so it's about connecting to that.
Would that mean really then, if you don't feel complete, would that mean that there's still attachments to something? You surrendered? Like I might not feel, because I'm obviously relatively new, so I might not feel that complete. So does that mean I'm so surrendered somewhere then that rather than to Krishna, surrendered somewhere else?
Well, I mean, spiritual life is a real sort of, I found a very exciting journey. And just like the examples given, if you're hungry and you start eating a meal, you can feel yourself getting full. Oh, I'm starting to get satisfaction. So the proof is that when one starts to embark on spiritual life, then as you probably could see for yourself, you gradually start to feel more complete. And that gradual feeling of becoming more and more complete, or more and more balanced and wholesome as a person, is good evidence to see, okay, yeah, if I keep going on this track, then my completeness and my wholesomeness will expand and expand. And actually, spiritually, there is no limit, to how much that can expand. I was watching a debate yesterday between... who was it between? It was between Hridayananda Maharaj or... it was about epistemology, like understanding how do you know what's true, what is not true. It was quite interesting. It was okay. It was a bit long, I think. Yeah, between Dr. Howard Resnick and Matt Dillahunty, who's famous for being a skeptic and atheist, So he was, and a lot of these, it seemed like he generally sort of, a lot of people are like, look, if you show me the spiritual life, then I'll accept it. But if you can't really show me, then I can't accept it, So he was but it was very interesting because they were talking about epistemology, like how do you know something's true? Like for something to be true, it should be independently verifiable. And it was very interesting how one of the sort of things that was brought up, or brought out, at least I understood from it, is that, this genuine sort of spiritual practices and spiritual life is objectively verifiable because the test or the experiment or the process is open for anyone to try it. And by trying it, you get genuine experience of how it works, So I thought it was quite interesting because I was thinking, if you really want to know who you are, who am I? What's the goal of life? Then you have to start with consciousness. What is consciousness? Because you are conscious. So what's your, and then if you follow the reasoning, like, okay, so either consciousness comes from a chemical combination of matter, or it comes from something else. We use the word spiritual, although spiritual may be quite a vague word. Okay, first of all, can consciousness be produced from any combination of chemicals? There's no experiment, even though there's many examples of life being produced in this world. You can't get the chemicals in the laboratory and produce consciousness yet. So therefore, if one wants to keep asking the question and not just wait for, cross your fingers and maybe there's an answer, then one would, why not delve into this other world of knowledge, which is more like philosophical or the different religions of the world. And then there's a different branch of knowledge that, claims that consciousness is spiritual and gives, if you, do your research right, it gives specific ways in which to experience that consciousness as spiritual. And as one starts to endeavor on this bhakti yoga experiment, when they use their body and their mind and their senses in the laboratory, then they start to get tangible realization of genuine spiritual life. And that's the three principles of epistemology. You have to be able to prove that something's true. It has to be true, and you have to believe it's true yourself. So by experiencing Krishna consciousness, you give people the experiment by which they can verify Krishna consciousness. And then the truths of real, genuine spiritual life and Krishna consciousness are brought out. Yeah. I don't know if that's... Charlie, is that right?
Yeah, I'm following this.
Yeah. Is that okay, Paul?
Yeah, I know it's a bit off topic, but like when the mantra course, I've been like imagining.
Oh, you've been doing the mantra series course, yeah?
Yeah,
That's online.
It's like I've been sitting a lot better now.
Yeah.
Like using like someone's pulling up on your head in a string and moving.
Oh, because you've been doing your homework.
Doing the homework.
Yeah. It helps.
Aligning
it
your
helps.
body, mind, and soul.
Yeah, it helps.
That's the and I was speaking to someone about this the other day. They were asking about yoga, and in the Bhagavad Gita it talks about yoga, how to sit up straight, but the whole point of yoga and having good posture and being able is because the yogis of ancient India would practice this yoga in order to sit properly, so it was easier for them to control their mind. Like pranayam, to breathe, to control your breathing, is purely so one can help focus their mind. So these days, all the actual meditation side or the real purpose of yoga is lost in all of the actual stretches.
Yeah.
And one yoga teacher was telling me that actually all the yoga that's practiced in the yoga schools today is actually all concocted from Germany. So the Germans went to India, got some of this yoga, but then over time it just all morphed. Yeah. So I think Ravindra Swarup, he was saying like it was all just, you know what I mean? So the real yoga science is in Bhagavad Gita. It's the most authentic textbook in yoga. Yeah. And if someone really wants to be a yogi, then they'd have to, you have to go into Sri Upanishad, Upanishad's Bhagavad Gita, because it's more than just the stretches. And what you get in your, Monday night yoga class is just something some Germans made up.
No, fair play. No, I heard something similar, like, all these different sub-yoga systems are ultimately meant to line you up for Bhakti yoga, but they're kind of like, they enhance the Bhakti yoga experience. So if you're doing all of this, if you're keeping your body in line so that you can do the Bhakti yoga, then it's great. It's like a condiment. But then, like, the main meal is the Bhakti,
Yeah.
So, like, I heard someone was saying, like, so many people are just getting stuck on the chutney, and they're just eating the chutney all the time, just doing stretchy yoga, just getting lost in that. But it's about the Bhakti at the top.
Yeah, I mean, we probably don't have time to go in. At some point, we'll delve deep into the whole yoga ladder as presented in the Bhagavad Gita. Because Bhakti yoga is that alignment of like we said, that loving propensity, really aligning the heart and one's consciousness in love with the supreme conscious and all the energies around the world, and seeing the world in a spiritual perspective. That's Bhakti. And then all the other types of yogas, like there's Ashtanga yoga, Jnana yoga, Karma yoga, they're all in order to cultivate this mentality that I'm actually spiritually a loving servant of every living being spiritually. And the heart should be so selfless that one doesn't want anything for themselves and just wants to love, care for, and uplift everyone else. And the yoga system is to bring one to this consciousness that, you fall in love with every living being because you're part of Krishna.
And that's like our real position, isn't it? To be in that servant position. Like we were talking about earlier about how like we want to live forever, but we have a temporary body. But we get reflections of that servant propensity. Like, like it's always better to cook a meal for someone else than to cook for yourself, right? Everyone kind of gets that feeling. Like when you cook it for yourself, it's kind of okay, this is nice. But you always put more effort in when you're cooking for someone.
Yeah, if you cook for other people, because you're expanding your loving relationships. So what better way to expand loving relationships with all living beings than to contact that? Really be in yoga, in union with the source of everything. If you love the source, then you can love every being. Like they give the example, you water the root of a tree, you nourish all the branches and the leaves of a tree. But if you try and water each individual leaf, it doesn't work. You need to water the root. So similarly, if this loving propensity is flowing towards the source of existence, which is what Sri Upanishad is trying to train us to do, then one, like you said, one actually falls in love with every spiritual being, and you dedicate your life to uplift everyone you can.
Yeah. And we're kind of taught the opposite in school. Like, you're an individual leaf. You should water yourself, and then you'll be happy.
Yeah, kick the other guy down. You know, try and
get to the top.
Yeah,
at all costs.
That's the thing. You have a choice. It's so competitive to be the best. Everyone that it's such a competitive field.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Better go into the field of trying to uplift everyone else. Because not many people are doing that. So there's a lot of opportunity to be that kind of person. But the avenue of trying to, step on the other guy's head to lift yourself up the ladder, that's a crowded atmosphere.
Yeah, that's where I come from as well. I'm like, my natural propensity is just to like try and be the best at everything in the world and crush
crush the opposition.
I'm gonna destroy, I'm gonna win. But like, this is what, as I've started this path, this sort of spiritual path, like I've started letting go of that crushing, domineering mentality, and it's such a weight off your shoulders. Like it's just like, it doesn't need to. You don't actually need to win.
Yeah.
You just need to like do the best you can. You don't have to.
Do you think it's because of fear? Sometimes I think it's because of fear that we think.
Yeah. It's like
insecurity. Because we're so insecure, vulnerable.
Yeah.
Perhaps we think, if I don't, I'm not worth anything. If everyone else is better than me at stuff, then what am I worth? Because we have no idea of our true worth as like spiritual beings. We try and measure ourselves up against everyone else. It's really so therefore we're only worth something if we can beat everyone else, and then that's the whole like.
Yeah, it's like because I guess we are all quite vulnerable, really.
Oh yeah.
Like, but if you can focus externally on like external factors, then you don't have to look at that squidgy jelly baby that's inside you. You know what I mean? Like, which is but actually it's kind of nice to. It is nice to stop looking outside and start, let go of that because then you actually start to become the best in like a weird, twisted way. But not really. Like you're not the best in that way, but you become the best you can be. Like you start to become the best version of yourself rather than like I'm the best at, I don't know, rugby or, you just, it's just better.
Have you ever seen that film, The Dead Poets Society?
No.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, with Robin Williams.
I might have seen it.
There's a point in the book, and I think it might have been a book originally, but it was also a film, isn't it, with Robin Williams? And there's a bit in a film where he has his classroom, and they're all pushed by their parents to. It's like a very private school, I think, to be very academic, etc. And Robin Williams plays this quite, I guess, charismatic English poetry teacher. And there's a part in the he shows them. He says, "Come with me, come class." He goes out of the door and he shows them the old pictures of the previous people who'd been in this school. It's a whole wall of these old black and white photos of different classes and different people. And he just goes through them all. And he says about how most of these people are dead now, and it's quite a sober atmosphere emerges. And the point is brought across that these kids are starting to realise that, what's it all for? If I can't really be myself and live my life doing the things I love, then what's the point? Because it all just, slips through your fingers so quickly. Time. So similarly, you can, if we always try and have this competitive attitude, then eventually you'll look back, and you were the biggest. You won the gold medals, and you the best at doing this and best at doing that. But what's really important is how rich you are in loving relationships, and to be rich in that, then you have to really care for people and uplift others rather than bring everyone else down. Someone was telling me one of the original Tarzan programs, I don't know which one, the person who played Tarzan, he just ended up, old and, disabled, and he would just watch videos of himself being Tarzan over and over again. He was just living in the past. This was my body, my muscles and stuff. I was such a handsome person, but he's just,
Yeah, this life's just a flash, really.
Yeah, so get your priorities straight.
Yeah.
There's different regrets. I watched something on BBC once about these end-of-life nurses, and they were saying what the biggest regrets were of people who were dying. And it was things like, I worked too much, or I didn't spend enough time with my family. I didn't do the things I wanted to do, But when I've seen people who have dedicated their life to a spiritual path, I've seen many sort of Bhakti yoga practitioners, people in Krishna consciousness, they have no regrets. Yeah. I've lived my life really just developing myself internally and spiritually, and now I'm reaping the fruits and the results as I start to close the curtain on this world and move on. And we've only just read a bit of the purport.
Yeah.
It's so deep.
It is, isn't it?
You can just zoom in. Yeah, you can just find so much to talk about with these subjects, and they're eternal in their own way. Do you know where we were? Or?
I think we're on when one realizes the Supreme Person, he realizes these aspects. How long have you gone for anyway, Charlie? He realizes these aspects of the absolute truth in their completeness. So we might just, maybe I'll just end this paragraph. Vigraha means form. So this is an interesting point, actually. Thus, the complete whole is not formless. If he were formless, or if he were less than his creation in any other way, he cannot be complete. The complete whole must contain everything both within and beyond our experience. Otherwise, he cannot be complete. So this not only is Sat, Chit, Ananda, these three principles, but there's also Vigraha, or form.
Form, yeah.
It's part of the conscious soul, actually, to have form. Not exactly like material form like we think of, but spiritual form. And you can tell that because if once the soul is in matter, like in a body of matter, then that matter starts to take form, like in the womb, or it starts to manifest form, and then it maintains that form. But when the soul leaves, then the form disappears and it starts to dissolve. So that is similar. You can similarly tell then the soul also has a type of form. Just like if you have a glove, if you put your hand in the glove, you can tell that you can see what a hand is, even though it's covered by the glove. You can see its form, how it moves. If you take the hand out, then the glove's just flat again. So similarly, you've got this like material elements. When the soul enters, you start to see, okay, this is the soul. It's got form, consciousness, desires. And then when it leaves, then you're just left with dead matter again.
Mind blown.
Mind blowing, yeah. So therefore, the source of everything must also have form. Otherwise, what's in the effect, what's in the cause, what's in the effects must also be in the cause. Otherwise, where did the effects come from? So therefore, consciousness, personality, form is also in the cause as well as in the effect.
That's awesome.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'd say drop the mic on that.
Drop the mic.
Drop the mic on that. It was awesome.
Yeah.
A wonderful episode. What was this, episode 5?
Episode 5, yeah. Hopefully by episode 6, I'll let you know how the Alexander technique goes. And
Yeah. That was cool. If anyone listened this far as well, make sure you write some kind of comment to us. Something like that.
Yeah,
We
we
wanna
get
hear from you.
responses.
Yeah, if
Because
you've got questions, smash them in.
we're just giving our own sort of what we've learnt and our own experience from practicing this. But everyone, I truly believe I've learnt so much. Everything I've learnt is from other people also, as well. So learning from others is really, I get a lot from it. So it'd be nice to hear people's reflections, realizations, things that they've realized in their life, and then we can.
Yeah.
All right.
And we're on Spotify now. We're working on getting on Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts. We're going to take over the world. We're going to dominate. We're going to be the best. We're going to crush the opposition. we're going to be completely victorious.
Yeah, this is our humble attempt to try and
Yin yang there, like
to try and. But there's so much negative vibration going on out there.
yeah.
Swirling around in the ether.
Yeah,
So we're
especially
putting out some positive vibes. And thanks, Paul, for being here as well.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah,
And Charlie.
lovely. It's
Thanks,
lovely.
Charlie. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, guys.
Hare Krishna. Well, and we've been Welsh yogis, and we'll see you again soon.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Madhya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinam Madhya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Shri